So, Survivor Series has passed, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but they managed to make this Survivor Series difficult to take it seriously, despite with the GOAT wrestling. Not because of the fact that Raw won 5 points while Smackdown won 2 points, even though that the first point that they won was literally a disqualification at the kickoff show, but after watching a few videos recently about people's thoughts on this show and its terrible booking and the fact that there's nothing much out of it, not to mention that The Rock didn't show up, it's clear to me that WWE is literally crapping on SmackDown. I'm being serious. I don't care if anyone doesn't care about brand supremacy in this pay-per-view aside from my closest followers on Twitter, because in all honesty, this show itself, it really sums up onto why Survivor Series is becoming less important, because World of Geek, who completely uploaded his videos on his thoughts on this pay-per-view, he wasn't really angry at it. He wasn't angry at it. He was completely disinterested. And the fact that he even mentions that most of the wrestlers did a good job and it wasn't their fault. Let me tell you, this is the type of stuff that really sums up onto why WWE isn't really pushing Survivor Series as a serious pay-per-view as it was compared to Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and SummerSlam. And at this point, people are completely crediting Money in the Bank as a major pay-per-view. Let me tell you this. The thing is, after the tag team match was completely done, I ended up stopping the show because the rest of the matches aren't really worth it. Raw beat SmackDown in the women's elimination match, which sums up onto why Bianca Belair is mostly a SmackDown superstar after being drafted to Raw about a month ago. And in the main event, while Roman Reigns wins, this isn't giving him more acknowledgement. It just makes the SmackDown brand difficult to take it seriously while trying to praise Raw as a better show, even though that the booking of this is slightly better compared to the booking of last year. But the thing is, this year's booking is difficult for me to see that Raw is the superior show, knowing that they pretty much knew that they couldn't be able to build this pay-per-view up on its own, even though that they had the opportunity. Day 1, which is going to be the first pay-per-view of WWE in the following year, they canceled TLC in the following month in favor of Day 1. Now that, I can agree. I can understand that TLC hasn't gone good lately, and scrapping the pay-per-view is somewhat of an alternative, but when you completely see that they didn't even build Survivor Series whatsoever, and the fact that they're celebrating this pay-per-view as the 25th anniversary of The Rock's debut, and the fact that he doesn't debut at this event whatsoever, I don't even understand what to gain from here. I mean, if he was here, then I'm pretty sure that SmackDown would have won. I know it's crazy to think, but considering that people were assuming that there's going to be a match between Roman Reigns and The Rock at WrestleMania next year, The Rock would probably make a comeback or an impact if he actually appeared on this stage. But apparently it didn't. And it really sums up onto why this pay-per-view is really losing its meaning, not because of the brand supremacy, but also of how Survivor Series is just becoming more worthless and worthless. The matches, regardless if you ignore the brand supremacy, really feel something you would expect from a WWE video game. And since I've used that phrase last year involving the women's match, well, Lana won by doing only one move or a few, and then she automatically becomes victorious because Bianca Belair and Nia Jax have been counted out, then I'm pretty sure that at this point, this really feels like a video game, except that it's taking place in reality. And I'm not even making this a metaphor. It really is the case. Let me tell you, I really think that at this point, if you really think that SmackDown has a better chance against Raw, what can you really expect when most of the wrestlers are being drafted to Raw and Raw gets the upper hand? When I completely see Bianca Belair being built up after main eventing WrestleMania this year, and the fact that she instantly gets drafted back to Raw and still becoming the sole survivor, that is something I expected last year. And considering that this entire gimmick of just trying to make Raw better, to make SmackDown pale in comparison over Raw, even though that people are still saying that SmackDown is the A show, all because of Roman Reigns, it's ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous. Last year, it kind of makes sense because Roman Reigns is being built, but considering that this leads to Roman Reigns being the only contributing factor to SmackDown, and the fact that they're just trying to push SmackDown down even more deeper, even though that people are really careless about it, this is the definition of what I'm describing, or what people crapping on SmackDown. That's why I'm making that assumption, because I'm treating Survivor Series as the major event involving SmackDown's time to become victorious for at least once involving brand supremacy. They didn't win in 2016 because of the Cruiserweight disqualification. In 2017, 18, 19, and 20, they're instantly getting overshadowed by storylines, and for this year, they would have had a chance to become superior, but apparently, they just didn't really care whatsoever for the build-up in the show, to the point that it's becoming downright ridiculous. It's not even clever that Raw is becoming better than SmackDown, because this is nepotism. I'm not making any of this up. I never do, because Christian Miracle, who sends WWE events since 2015, instantly says that the blue brand is pathetic on Twitter. I know that he's mostly joking, but if he wasn't, I'm pretty sure that he won't go this far into saying that SmackDown is a pathetic brand. Because the freedom of speech thing, regardless if you're biased towards, doesn't really assume at the fact that he pretty much didn't comment on the women's match and the Roman Reigns match by the time of this recording. Because it really feels like that he only cares about if Raw wins, and then he just thinks that, and he just assumes that he's right all the time because Raw gets all the glory, all the better superstars, and at the same time, this is why he's becoming unlikable than his haters. Because when it comes to haters who completely crap on Raw, I can understand that they just completely ignore the better wrestlers, mostly because of how they're booked, but on the other hand, I mostly side with Christian because he can actually see the brighter side of the booking decisions. But unfortunately, when it comes to this, after he sends Crown Jewel, I don't even know how he's going to send this pay-per-view, because at this point, I'm really getting sick of the WWE Sinner trying to line up everyone else's move, because at this point, last year, it didn't do much when he completely set poor SmackDown, and the fact that this year is no different. He would instantly just say that you might as well just break the brand split and just have both stars appear on both shows. And let me tell you, I know that Christian Miracle doesn't like this. He doesn't like the idea of multiple wrestlers appearing in both shows and completely having no competition whatsoever, since that they won't be able to focus on all the stars. Which is why the brand split was rebirthed in 2016. if you ask me, this isn't because I was done reacting to his Sin videos, because I stopped doing that way before Survivor Series of last year. It's mostly the fact that they're not taking anything seriously if they expect you to accept what it is. This isn't. You canceled TLC in favor of Day 1, so I assume that you'll put more attention on this show, since that you have like 6 or 7 weeks until Day 1 appears comes in the new year, and you can have all that focus on trying to make 2022 a greatest kickstart, and while you're just trying to be this lazy enough to not be able to book Survivor Series whatsoever. Those are reasons onto why people say that this show isn't really the best show or best pay-per-view in WWE at this point. Regardless of the best wrestling, it really feels like that these wrestling matches are going to be mostly forgotten afterwards, because people forgot most of the matches involving the 2018 edition afterwards because of the Queen's sleep, because people just do not like most of what the build-up of that year's Survivor Series had. The fact that we may got Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar, but on the other hand, that's just basically the last good qualities of what Survivor Series had. Because when you completely don't focus on the booking decisions more, and just mostly focus onto how Raw is a better show, and the fact that people, mostly Christian Miracle, are just trying to make jokes on Twitter or not that Smackdown is a pathetic show, you're taking things slightly too far. When I made my Smackdown video earlier this year, I wasn't making anything up. I never joke. Regardless if Christian Miracle's style is much more different than mine, I don't take any. I always take some things seriously, and this is one of them. One of these moments is one of the reasons why I'm slowly having progress into making videos, because when people don't usually watch all my videos, even if I do not expect all of them to, and the fact that when they get uploaded, it won't make much of a difference, this show alone sums up everything, and it's the perfect simulation of how I can't be able to focus on everything, and then when I try so hard, this stuff happens. Except that what I'm doing right now is the best of my capabilities. But what WWE is doing right now, they clearly don't know how to end up 2021 a great. They don't know how to end it off on a high note. And the sad thing is, aside from NXT War Games, they don't have anything to prove to wrap up everything aside from the final episodes of Raw and SmackDown. Regardless of great matches or anything, I'm really getting sick of this constant struggle of SmackDown being the weaker show compared to Raw, and people say that it's the A show. When people say that it's the A show, they should at least win at Survivor Series and try to treat Survivor Series as a major pay-per-view if it's going to keep on with the brand supremacy gimmick. That's just how much that this entire Raw victorious since 2016, aside from 2019, is what's damaging the brand split. Because if I was able to book this show, I would have SmackDown win. But I wouldn't go out of my way and just trash on Raw, because in all honesty, I never hated Raw to begin with. I may went a little too far when I talked bad towards it in my SmackDown video earlier this year, but it was mostly because of the fact that this is further proof that Survivor Series is basically a B show. It is a B show. It's not an A+ show, it's a B+ show. And when it's a B+ show, it sums up onto why WWE had second thoughts on canceling Survivor Series after 2009. And the fact that last CEO did something that this CEO couldn't is having the return of the Undertaker, but they didn't have the return of the Rock. This show actually made something that what last year did better, and I didn't even watch the Undertaker retirement. I never disrespect legends whatsoever, and when I say I focus on the newer generation, it's mostly because of what the new generation can be able to showcase its talents in an event like this. If you really think that Raw deserves this victory because it has better superstars, then at this point, you're literally just completely crapping on SmackDown. I know all of you aren't, but do you really think that once Raw or SmackDown comes during this week and they're just going to ignore all this? This is really becoming a lot more ridiculous in the fact that there's no aftermath on the SmackDown defeat whatsoever. It just really makes Survivor Series even worse and worse as time has gone by. I was expecting much from this show, and even if The Rock didn't show up, I'm pretty sure that the booking that they had would have been much more better if they put all their focus on focusing on the build-up right after Crown Jewel into Survivor Series. And when I completely see that they only built up the show for 2 weeks, and when they announced the teams on Twitter, how does Christian Miracle found any of this okay? He may be a fan of WWE, still optimistic, but I just don't understand onto why he's not expressing his opinions on most of the booking decisions. I just don't. Seriously. I don't expect much of for my favorite YouTubers or anything, but as time goes on and when you completely don't showcase what you feel and the fact that SmackDown is just constantly getting crapped on, and when people say it's not buried, then what do you think about this show when most of it is mostly good wrestling but with poor build-up? This isn't like WrestleMania 31 where it had terrible build-up, because WrestleMania 31 had the build-up it needed. People say that show was going to be terrible, but then when the show came around, it was a great WrestleMania. And then when you look at this pay-per-view on its own, you got nothing to gain. Let me tell you, Roman Reigns' victory over Big E didn't mean anything even without the Usos' interference. Because of how much that they only think about what's really important involving the SmackDown brand, mostly involving Roman Reigns. I did not mean to say SmackDown brand. Sorry that this video is unedited, but the point is that they only favor the Raw brand, and then when they completely just having Roman Reigns win and just trying to cut a promo that he's better than everyone else, then this is where you're losing hope involving the SmackDown superstars. This is why I assume that every show should be important regardless of lack of violence, as in using weapons, trying to figure out some other way to make a pay-per-view stand out on its own. And then when I completely see this, if The Rock actually appeared on the show, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually comments on how Roman Reigns is a better butt kicker compared to anyone else on the SmackDown brand, because he would still do the same thing involving the Raw brand and nothing would change at all. Christian Miracle, I highly doubt that you'll watch this video, especially with its length, but seriously, I'm not calling you a Raw supporter, but seriously, freedom of speech or not, you're becoming unlikable than your haters. You really are. And I'm not saying this because I'm turning against you. I still watch your videos even though I do not watch them all the time, especially during your hiatuses. But on the other hand, if you really say that if you can't beat them, join them, then you clearly think that I'm literally joking and you're just trying to assume that everything I say in my Smackdown video was mostly biased. And while you may be right on that, but after this pay-per-view, you clearly don't even understand how personal this is. It's not even humorous anymore that the fact that the brand split is dying even worse. I mean, compared to the first brand split, it makes sense because they put more focus and they're trying to take it seriously. But with this second brand split, I'm pretty sure that this is pretty much the death of the brand split. This night alone is the death of the brand split. And even though that we still have the SmackDown Women's and Tag Teams Championships, along with Raw having their own championships, it's not really enough. They kept releasing superstars constantly, which sums up everything onto what WWE is doing at the moment. And when you completely ignore all that, then you clearly are showing way more favoritism than you already have. This is the type of stuff that I'm losing my ability to make more videos. No, it's not because I was focusing on this pay-per-view because I ignore most of my schedules of having doing fanfics or anything. It's far from it. But on the other hand, I highly doubt that brand supremacy would return next year, knowing that Survivor Series is coming back next year. At this point, people may not see it closely, but Vince McMahon is slightly killing the brand split. Say all you want, but at the same time, he really needs to go to the Hall of Fame and retire. There's really nothing else that Vince McMahon can do aside from appearing on the show. I just don't even understand onto why that this show can work out for its good wrestling, but at the same time, that the booking completely destroys it. I used to be one of those people that say that WWE is a great show because of its wrestling, but after people discussing of how the booking and the storylines is what's causing the show to become less and less interesting, this show just shoved it in my face. It really did. It just gave me all the answers. And at this point, I couldn't agree more. All I can say is that I'm going to be uploading more videos involving Thanksgiving during this week. And I am still going to try to complete my videos involving my February schedule. And I'm going to be thinking of the ideas of what I'm going to do for my March schedule. At this point, I'm probably going to be losing my interest into watching another brand supremacy pay-per-view next year if it does come. And I'm pretty sure that at this point, Raw should probably take over Survivor Series. Like, have the Raw brand completely take over the entire show while leaving the SmackDown brand out of it. Then I can actually see what people would feel of the 5 times that Raw has beaten SmackDown in this show. I literally cannot take it anymore, and the fact that people are making excuses that SmackDown have won during the first show because of the Survivor Series match, and the fact that people still assume that they beat Raw in 2019 even though that they didn't, and the fact that Crystal Miracle actually craps on it by saying that NXT beat SmackDown and Raw, and the fact that he jokes about that SmackDown beats Raw in his Sins video. taking it seriously is mostly important some of the times. And at this point, this is really pushing the envelope.